What's up, everybody? Today we're gonna be talking about eating keto on a budget, how I approach things, how I put together a shopping list and a meal plan for the week. And so for the purpose of this video, I did some back of the napkin calculations and figured I could eat on about $10 a day, which is $70 a week. And that's just for one person, but just for the, simplifying the calculations, I left out my kids and my wife and kind of just calculated what one person would eat. And so when I'm putting together my shopping list, I have an easy to remember acronym that I use, which is PFF, or PFF, which stands for protein, filler, and flavor. And I kind of go in that order of importance. For me, the protein, the animal products are the most important part of my shopping list. And whether you're eating more of a paleo or more of like a carnivore-ish diet, this core group of items doesn't really need to change. These are the items that I think are the biggest bang for your buck. And so at the top of that list is canned fish. I always pick up some canned fish, a mix of sardines, and I also try to get some oysters. I did my shopping at Walmart and I picked up this Seasons brand of sardines. I think Costco also carries these. These are about $2 per can. I think the ones in oil are a little bit more. The ones in water are a little bit less. And then I also try to include some canned smoked oysters. Walmart didn't have the brand that I like. I got these off of Amazon, but they're also about $2 per can. And so I try to pick up about 6 cans of those, one about every day. The next item I always include is pasture-raised eggs. I got 2 dozen pasture-raised eggs. You can get cheaper eggs, but I feel like the trade-off here, paying a little bit more, is actually worth it because you're getting a lot more nutrition for your dollar. The next item I'm gonna pick up is gonna be a whole bunch of ground beef. Red meat is another one of those biggest bang for your buck items, and ground beef is often the cheapest way to buy red meat. I try to pick up ground beef for about $4 to $5 per pound. Sometimes I can find grass-fed ground beef for $5 a pound. Sometimes I can't, and I'll just opt for the conventional stuff. This is 4.5 pounds for $18.22. The last thing I'm gonna pick up is some boneless, skinless chicken thighs. I include these mainly for variety. I like to have some chicken on hand for salads. They're cheaper than chicken breasts. And they're also easier to prepare than buying like a whole chicken. These are really convenient. I just throw them in my air fryer for like 20 minutes and I've got chicken ready to go. In terms of how much protein to buy for the week, I actually calculate it based on I want to get close to 1 gram per pound of protein per day. And so I just use like a fitness app like Chronometer or MyFitnessPal, and I just plug in sort of a hypothetical day and look up how much protein I'll need per day to hit that number, and then I'll just times that by 7 for the week, and that sort of helps me figure out how much protein I'm gonna need. And so referring back to that $70 weekly budget I had, I budgeted $45 for protein. This came in just under that. I think it was 44 something. And for me, this is sort of the non-negotiable part of my shopping list and my budget. I'm always going to include this. I figure it's the most important part. The one item I would add to this would be some liver. I wouldn't necessarily buy that every shopping trip, but I would always want to have it on hand. It's also not very expensive. You don't need to consume a ton of it. I try to get in about 4 to 6 ounces a week. If you watch the ground beef video I just did, I show how I kind of sneak it into my diet. And so that's it for my protein. That's where the bulk of my budget is gonna be. And then so moving on to the next category is gonna be what I call my filler, also known as my veggies or produce. I just think of veggies as a way to sort of fill up my plate, fill up my stomach, make me feel a little bit more full, and also maybe fill in some of the nutritional gaps I might be worried about, eating mostly animal products. And so I've only left about $10 to $15 in my budget for produce. I really like cabbage as an inexpensive filler. And so I was able to pick up almost 5 pounds of cabbage for, it looks like $2.83. So this also is a way to stretch my animal products, which tend to be more expensive, further by balancing it out with some, cheap veggies to fill in my meals. I also like romaine lettuce for salads. For people who are on something closer to like a carnivore diet and they're a little bit scared of eating veggies, romaine lettuce is one of the safest veggies out there, both in terms of being low in oxalates. It's also got some of the key nutrients that are missing from an animal-based diet. So romaine lettuce is just a really great add. I also picked up a couple cucumbers. And then my biggest splurge for the filler category was this big bag of broccoli florets. I probably could have gone cheaper if I just bought the broccoli crowns on their own. But again, I'm big into convenience and saving time. And so I just like to have these cut up broccoli florets on hand. But that's it for my produce, my filler category, as I've called it. And then the final category would be my flavor, which I should add is totally optional. If you were to leave something out, you would leave this out and you'd have a $60 per week budget. I do like having some variety and flavor, and I've left $15 in my budget basically to pick up 2 to 3 Primal Kitchen products and a thing of everything but the bagel seasoning. Some weeks I might also go like 2 dressings and a ketchup, or once a month I might just pick up a big thing of avocado oil to cook with. In some ways these items are definitely a splurge, but I'm also sort of saving I guess mental energy in terms of coming up with recipes. I just pick up a couple Primal Kitchen products and have them on hand, and I can just add a little bit of flavor easily, and I can switch up the flavor from week to week. The dressings are really versatile because they can be used as both a marinade or a dressing. So if you're like marinating your chicken thighs, they come in handy. And so while I budgeted for $70, everything ended up coming out to about $75, which is about $10.50 a day. This was my first time doing this exercise, so I think I could definitely get it down to that $70 a week. Now, if I didn't care about being keto per se, if I was on more of a primal paleo diet on a budget, basically I would just swap out some of my green produce for some sweet potatoes, and that's gonna be stretching out my dollar a little further in terms of dollar per calorie. And so then in terms of what I actually eat, in terms of a breakfast, lunch, and a dinner, I only eat 2 meals a day. And so I don't really know whether to call my breakfast a lunch or my lunch a breakfast. I guess it would just depend on if it has eggs or not. And so my go-to breakfast is 3 to 4 eggs. Sometimes I just eat them fried. Sometimes I scramble them up. Sometimes I make an omelet. It doesn't really matter. And then I serve that with either canned sardines or canned oysters on the side. Throw some everything but the bagel seasoning on there. I'll use a little bit of ketchup on my eggs, or maybe a lot of ketchup. Some people get grossed out by sardines. This seasoned brand doesn't even have any skin or bones. So to me, it's really not that different than eating, tuna. It doesn't have that strong a taste or anything. But if you're still grossed out by the sardines, you could always, cover them with a little bit of ranch or mayo, mash it up with some mayo, whatever you need to do. For lunch, which is many times actually my breakfast, I might do a salad. Mark Sisson is known for his big ass salad full of tons of colorful vegetables. I've come up with something I call the half-ass salad, which is just romaine and a bunch of cabbage just to sort of bulk it up a little bit. If I have any other produce on hand, I'll throw it in there. I've got some cucumbers, so I'll throw it in there. And then I'll throw some chicken thighs on there. As I mentioned before, my favorite way to make chicken thighs, or at least the easiest, is just to throw them in my air fryer for about 20 minutes. I'll just season them with a little bit of everything but the bagel seasoning, and I'll throw them on top. And then just pick your favorite dressing. This is sort of the go-to ranch I'm gonna throw on there. I could eat the same thing every day, but just switch up the dressing every so often for variety. And that's a really simple lunch. And then dinner for me will either be just a bunch of ground beef. You can check out the ground beef recipe video I just did, or it'll be a mix of ground beef and veggies. The veggies just to add some bulk. And so basically I just cook up the ground beef. And then once it's mostly cooked, I'll throw in some shredded cabbage, maybe some broccoli, whatever you have on hand, just to give it a little bit more bulk. And then I'll just throw some kind of flavor on it, either a Primal Kitchen dressing or a sauce. Lately, I've really been liking the sauces. This is sort of my go-to, which is the Hawaiian barbecue sauce. It's a little bit higher in carbs. I mean, if you're super keto and worried about that, maybe avoid this one. It has 7 grams of carbs per serving. I eat pretty low carb as it is, so even if I include a bunch of this during my evening meal, I'm still gonna be like way under 50 grams of carbs for the day. So this has been my go-to lately for sort of like a meat and veggie scramble. I don't know what you wanna call it, a saute, a stir fry, but yeah, meat and veggies. You could switch it up in terms of just separating out the meat and the veggies. I could make my ground beef into burgers and then serve my cooked veggies on the side. And then, as I mentioned before, if I was eating more of a budget conscious primal paleo diet, I'd be eating just basically ground beef and sweet potatoes. I've actually done this in the past for weeks on end. I don't get tired of it, but basically bake a big batch of sweet potatoes, have that on hand, and then just serve that with some ground beef on top. Top it with some sauce to give it some flavor, and that's a basic budget primal meal. Or a more balanced approach would be some burgers with some of those baked sweet potatoes and also some of the cooked veggies. But yeah, that's it in terms of sort of how I eat on a budget, how I've eaten in the past. As I mentioned earlier, I've sort of gone more of a carnivore-ish approach where I've just sort of left out the filler altogether, or we'll just kind of throw in a salad here and there. But that's all I have for today. If you want to pick up any Primal Kitchen product at a discount, you can get 20% off any Primal Kitchen product at primalkitchen.com. If you use the code HELLO20, you'll get 20% off your entire order. Thank you for watching. I hope you have found this video useful, and I will see you next time.